Hey YouTube, it's me, the Student Witch, and I am doing the Get to Know Me tag. It was originally started by Witch, and then Travis over at the Pagan Scholar at that channel. He did his contribution about a week or so ago, and it's taken me probably about a week or a week and a half to add my 2 cents. Sorry, I've just been incredibly busy, but in the best possible ways, in overwhelming ways, but the best possible ways. For example, this past weekend, my advisor had a party at her house because she had invited an Italian filmmaker, but an Afro-Italian filmmaker who made a documentary about the Eritrean community because Italy, at some point, had colonies in Africa, and so this was a group of people who had been colonized by Italy. And apparently that's a history that, according to her, isn't taught in schools in Italy. So I got to meet this Afro-Italian filmmaker. She's amazing. Her documentary was gorgeous, and she just seems like a really good person, which unfortunately is kind of rare to find these days. These days, as if I'm like an old grandma. I'm only 28. But anyway, so I was busy with that because the film screening was on Monday, and we went out to dinner after the film screening. So I didn't get home until past 11 o'clock Monday, and I teach Monday through Thursday, and it's just crazy, but in good ways. So sorry it's taken me a while to contribute to this. So let's get started. Question number 1, and I'll include the questions in the description box below. What is your witchy name? Well, the name of my channel is The Student Witch. My first name is Rachel, but I don't really feel the need to have a witchy name because my legal name, at least my first name and my middle name, I've always really identified with my name because my middle name is also a noun. So I've really always identified with it and loved my name and the story behind it and what it means to me, and it just, so I don't know, I don't feel a need to have like a ceremonial witchy name. So just the Student Witch on YouTube. Your favorite subject in the craft. So when it comes to what I really love in the craft, it's kind of, my interests are in extremes. On the one hand, I really love the really heady shit, like thinking about consciousness and, the individual's relationship to the all, thinking about what deity might be and how it might work, and my relationship to it. So thinking cosmically and on a universe kind of level, but also, so on the other end of things, of my interest spectrum, I fucking love kitchen witchery. I love cooking shit and making homemade herbal shit for health, basically, like homemade salves, homemade tinctures. I love learning about herbalism. I just fucking love kitchen witchery, and I also really love witchery that has to do with just everyday life. And I love trying to build a bridge between this everyday life kind of kitchen witchery and the more, cosmic level heady shit that I'm also interested in, and seeing how the heady shit exists in the kitchen witchery and how the kitchen witchery exists in the heady shit, basically. I love trying to build impossible bridges, basically. So I would say those are the two ends of the spectrum that really fascinate me when it comes to the craft. Favorite witchy song or group? Fiona Apple would be one artist. Just her way with words and her voice is just spellbinding. As far as music, I guess classical Indian music has always just fascinated me. My favorite song ever is Within You, Without You by the Beatles. I even have some lyrics tattooed on me here. Life flows on within you and without you. Again, the individual and its relationship to the cosmos kind of thing. So that song really has some heavy Indian influences because it was written by George Harrison. It's the first song on the B-side of Sgt. Pepper's, if you have it on vinyl, which I do thanks to my uncle. And it has some really heavy influences because I think he wrote it after they had spent a summer or a year in India or whatever. I used to be a huge Beatles fan. I still love them, but so yeah. So Indian music, especially classical, instrumental Indian music. I need to learn more about it because I'm fairly familiar with Western classical music, like how to read music and the scale and things like that, because I used to play a couple of instruments, but Indian music is just, I don't know, it just gets me in the groove when it comes to meditation and going inward and outward at the same time. So yeah, Fiona Apple, a little bit of the Beatles, classical Indian music, and even classical Western music. Jumping to a way different genre, old school blues and southern soul music, but also bluegrass music. So like the music that was written by, either poor white people in Appalachia with heavy African influences. The banjo is based on an African instrument that the slaves used to make from a gourd, So like bluegrass music, but also like, I don't know, just the music that comes out of the South. I grew up, I'd say Kentucky's in the South. Maybe not the Appalachian part, but kind of the central part. I went to college in Tennessee. I got a master's degree in Georgia. So I lived in Georgia for 3 years. My husband still lives down there. So I'm from the South in general, I would say. And just, I don't know, just the music that is a product of colonialism. The music written by slaves and former slaves, or the music written by, poor white people in Appalachia, like I said earlier. It's just, I don't know. My grandfather's from Appalachia, by the way, so I do have roots there. So yeah, so just southern music, I guess. It's just so rich, and there's just so much to it, It's hard to put into words. So that would be the music / artists / groups that get me in the witchy groove. Okay. What number am I on? 4, the last witchy item that I purchased. So I guess the last item I actually purchased, or items, are these crystals. This is a tiger's eye. The lighting sucks, so you won't be able to see it flashing very well. But this is a beautiful tiger's eye. And a couple of pieces of labradorite, which just, I have no words for describing the beauty of these stones and how they make me feel every time I touch them. I haven't had much time to just sit down and work with them, but I try to, I don't know, I'm kind of weird. On my altars every day, I usually light some candles, incense, and then I go around and touch things. Even if I mean, usually if I don't have time to do a real working or meditation work, I just kind of like to touch my crystals and just like let them know I'm thinking about them kind of thing. I don't know if anybody else does that, but so these two pieces of labradorite, I've been like slowly building a relationship and getting to know them. So those are the last things I bought. As far as things that I haven't bought, but I would still consider recent witchy items, are a couple of books. So at the end of the summer, my husband and I were helping one of our friends load up a U-Haul truck and move, because she graduated with her PhD and she was about to go to the college where she's now teaching. And this is the same friend who introduced me to my husband, so I give her much respect and I'm forever thankful and grateful to her. So she had a pile of books and she said, you can go through them, keep what you want, and donate the rest to this local Latino library, community library thing. So I only ended up keeping one book, and it was this book, Entering the Castle, An Inner Path to God and Your Soul, by Caroline Miss. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Entering the Castle. And at first I started looking at the cover and I was like, oh, I guess this is just like a self-help book kind of thing, which I normally don't read. But then I saw that this self-help spiritual book, which is all about mysticism in the 21st century, basically, and how to develop a practice that will help you become your own mystic, basically, is what the book is about. But it's based on the writings of Santa Teresa de Jesus, who was an early Renaissance or early modern, late medieval saint, a mystic saint. And she wrote, I'm just now learning about her and reading her, actually. But she wrote this book, this book is the basis for this book, right? Let me cover this up so you don't find out where I am. Okay, so Santa Teresa de Jesus, right? She wrote Las Moradas del Castillo Interior. So this is usually translated in English as the interior castle, a journey into the interior castle or something like that. But so I got this from the library, from my university's library, and I'm lucky enough to be bilingual and to be able to read it in the original Spanish, because luckily, unlike English, Spanish has not changed very much in the last like 700 or 800 years. Like, I can pick up a medieval text and read it okay. And it helps that I've studied Portuguese. That really helps, because at that time, like, the line between Spanish and Portuguese was pretty fuzzy. So anyway, so I'm lucky enough to be able to read this in the original Spanish, and the idea is she sets up a metaphor for becoming one or witnessing God firsthand, which is like what mysticism is, right? And the metaphor is entering into the castle, and the castle has 7 parts, and each 7 parts has 7 other rooms, basically. So it's this great visual aid to journey with your soul into your soul, and that journey ultimately leads you to experiencing the oneness with God, or the all, the universe, the cosmos, whatever you believe. I'm really interested in like medieval or early modern Catholic mysticism, especially from the Iberian Peninsula, because, and pardon my nerding out, sorry, this is supposed to be a getting to know me video. Well, you are getting to know me because you see me nerding out, so just humor me. The thing is, a lot of these Spanish medieval and, well, early modern, like 1500s, 1500s kind of mystics and writers. Another one is San Juan de la Cruz, or St. John of the Cross, who wrote poetry and stuff. It's really beautiful. A lot of these were conversos, or converts, meaning that somewhere in their bloodline they had a Jewish ancestor, or their parents were Jewish, or they themselves were Jewish, and everybody was forced to convert, and it was a stigma to be a converso. The Spanish were obsessed with limpieza de sangre, or cleanliness of the blood, which is a concept they carried over to the Americas. And so, like, having a drop of Jewish blood or whatever, it puts you kind of at risk. And at this time, the Inquisition was in full bloom, or full power. And so they even investigated Santa Teresa de Jesus. And I mean, on top of that, she was a woman writing, and I mean, this was the time when it was debatable, according to the leaders of the Catholic Church and writers and thinkers at the time, it was debatable whether women should even be allowed to learn how to read, much less write. And so, like, this bitch was a trailblazer and a mystic. And so I'm just really excited. I'm just reading right now. I'm this far into it, which is nothing. But right now I'm slowly making my way through the introduction, which was written by Damaso Chicharro. I don't know who this is. I think this is who printed this? This was printed in Spain. For some reason I thought it was printed in Mexico. But anyway, I'm reading this, and this was a recent, not really purchase, but something I acquired recently. Okay, so, favorite witchy books. Oh Lord, I'll try to keep this part short. Okay, so you're on my bookshelf right now, so I might reach for things, but this book, you're probably tired of hearing me talk about it, but based on the academic work I do, it makes sense that I'm obsessed with this book. Just go read it. If you haven't, go read it. Kind of related to that, Ana Castillo's So Far From God. This is a novel. It's so much fun, but it's also like so heart-wrenching to read, and it's very witchy. It's very, very witchy. So Ana Castillo, So Far From God, and that phrase comes from Porfirio Diaz. He was a Mexican president / dictator kind of person from late 1800s, early 1900s. Ooh, correct me if I'm wrong, it's been a while. But this quote has been attributed to him, although I think there's up to debate whether or not he actually said it, but he basically said, poor Mexico, it's so far from God and so close to the United States. It's a timely quote. It's thinking about the current presidential election we're having in this country, in the United States. It's like, poor Mexico, so close to the United States, Other books. Leaves of Grass. I'll have to make a separate video about this, but I read, or actually I'm still working my way through it. This is one of those books that it's okay to take a lifetime to get through it. It almost feels like you're supposed to open it up and read that poem on that day for that reason. It's kind of like a bibliomancy kind of book. But I started reading this book at a very tough time in my life, and one of the poems, which I'll read right now if I can find it, it helped me to save my own life. And I actually have right below the beetle quote, I have the first few lines of this poem tattooed on me. I think, okay, it's Song of the Open Road, but it's part 5. From this hour, I ordain myself loosed of limits and imaginary lines. That's what I have tattooed on me. So, setting yourself free and realizing that whatever chains hold you down, or chains that you have control over, to a certain extent, kind of thing. That's the message I got at that time when I read it for the first time, and it's exactly what I needed to read and understand in that moment. So, Leaves of Grass. And finally, the very first witchy book I bought and read. You can see all these. I've been meaning to do a review of this book for so long that at this point I just need to reread it. It's been that long before I could do a review. The Flame in the Cauldron, a book of old-style witchery by Orion Foxwood. And Orion Foxwood is really known for, he's a great author. I've also read Candle in the Crossroads, which is about his experience and beliefs with hoodoo and Appalachian folk magic, because he's from that part of the country as well, but he's also a person of color and he's also gay, so it's like all of his experience with that. And this is more of like his beliefs, his structure, his approach to spirituality. Really, really good book. So I really recommend Orion Foxwood. So those are some of my favorite books. My favorite color? Yellow. It's always been yellow since I was a kid. Do I have a familiar? Number 7. No, I don't, but I want a fuzzy so bad. I want a cat so bad. I'm such a cat person. But unfortunately, my life's too hectic for a cat. I don't have money for a pet, and my apartment doesn't allow pets, so it's gonna have to wait. Favorite witchy scent? First scents that come to mind are frankincense and myrrh. I've been in love with frankincense and myrrh ever since I was a kid and when I was grown up Catholic. Other favorite scent is Palo Santo. Palo Santo is very powerful. I have a lot of associations with Palo Santo. So those 2 scents. Favorite sabbat? I think the default for most people is Samhain. So I'm not going to touch on Samhain, even though it is my default. But I guess the other Sabbath or holiday, I don't really follow the wheel of the year very strictly, would be the winter solstice for many reasons. First of all, it's my birthday. I was born December 21st, 1987, which was also the night of the new moon, or dark moon, so anyway, but it's my birthday. I love what it represents. I love the different deities associated, or in the northern hemisphere anyway, it's the winter solstice, right? I don't want to leave out any of the southern hemisphere people, but in the northern hemisphere, December 21st or 22nd is the winter solstice, and I love the deities associated with the solstice of solar deities. I love the fact that the darkest day with the longest night has a solar association, because every day after that gets longer. It's like the rebirth moment. So yes, the winter solstice. Solitary or in a coven? Solitary as fuck. Not necessarily by choice. I mean, I would never want to be in a coven, because I'm an intensely individualistic. I never want to be a leader, and I never want to be a follower. I just want to do my own thing. kind of thing. So I would like to have more of a witchy community in the flesh, you know? But as far as being in an organized coven with like hierarchies and shit, like, no, I can't. 10. Oh wait, I already did that. Solitary or in a coven. 11. Favorite witchy shop. I guess the only witchy shop that's relatively close to where I live is the 7 Stars bookstore. It has books on the occult, on witchcraft. There's even books on conspiracy theories and aliens and stuff. So it's just like this crazy bookstore and has everything along those lines in it. But it also has crystals. That's where I got the Labradorite and the Tiger's Eye recently. And they have a few tarot decks. Their tarot selection is quite limited, but yeah. So 7 Stars. It's in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Okay, food or drink before, during, or after ritual. Usually if I incorporate anything drinky, liquidy into my ritual, it's either water or something alcoholic, wine, morning glory wine, which I made recently. I have a video about that, or beer. But it's actually not that often that I include any of those things in my rituals or practice. As far as me consuming them. During ritual, as far as food goes, I haven't really included food, like overtly in a ritual. But after ritual, I really love pretzels and hummus. That's my go-to snack. But if I'm really, really hungry, I need some like comfort food, and comfort food for me bounces between Vietnamese pho soup, pad ki mao, a really spicy Thai dish that I love, or something more like southern, like Waffle House. Special place in my heart for that piece of shit. I love Waffle House. Or fried chicken, or breakfast food. I really love like hash and like hash browns and fried potatoes with eggs and bacon. I can eat that shit all day. So maybe that's just my comfort food. I don't know if I could like incorporate that into a ritual even afterwards, but yeah. That's the food that I go to if I need extra like oomph in whatever I'm doing or recovering from. So this is my long ass contribution to the get to know me tag. As you probably can tell by the end of this tag, I'm pretty nerdy. So you've gotten to know me through my nerding out, but also in the books that I mentioned and things like that. So yes, continue this tag. I have the questions included below. And thank you, Travis, and thank you, Cinewitch, for starting this tag. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.